Father in heaven, once again we thank you for bringing us to this place. We thank you for our county. We thank you for our citizens. We thank you for those who care enough to come and be with us and work with us as we try to make our county the best that it can be. We ask your blessings on us, Lord, because we know that you have those blessings. All that we need is in you. These are other blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Wakulla County Commissioners, Monday, October 18th, 2010. Our first order of business will be to address and approve the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections to the agenda? Okay, I'm going to want to pull item 5. And hearing no other amendments or intentions to the agenda, we'll proceed by entertaining a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart. Second by Commissioner Green. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Moving into the awards and presentations. Ms. Pam Portwood on the announcement of the Wakulla County Welcome Center ribbon cutting ceremony.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here on behalf of Wakulla County Tourist Development Council and Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners and the Panacea Blue Crab Festival. We are actually having an event to reopen the Welcome Center after the necessary repairs and improvements have been made. It's going to be held on Thursday evening, October the 28th, from 5:30 to 7. We have combined this with the TDC's chamber mixer also, so we'll have some door prizes there, and it's just going to be a good time. And I think we're really excited about getting the Welcome Center back open. So we hope everybody's going to come and enjoy and see how it looks.
And can you repeat the date again, please?
October the 28th, Thursday, from 5:30 to 7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're up again.
Yeah. Okay, I'm putting on my Florida Foresight hat now and announcing the upcoming Mighty Mullet Maritime Festival in Panacea. It's going to be held on October 30th, Saturday, October 30th, from 10 to 5 p.m. We have some of the same events that we've had in the past that have been very successful. Mighty Mullet Cook-Off, cooking demonstration of all sorts of seafood, and also the honoring and coronation of our King and Queen. This year, Noah and Mildred Posey are our King and Queen. We're really excited about that. They're quite definitely patriarch and matriarch in Panacea, and really represent the maritime heritage there well. It also happens to be not long before their 50th wedding anniversary, so it's going to be a special time. But we've got some new things this year. We're actually going to have a small farmers market and then a mock seine yard to help interpret the bartering that went on between the farmers in South Georgia and for salt and seafood here along the coast. We have a silent auction this this year, boat building. Del Suggs is going to be playing music for us, and we're also having the mythical Maritime Masquerade costume contest. And so we hope that I would love to challenge our county commission departments. Maybe you guys would like to get together and put together a creative maritime costume and a model to model it at 1:30 on Saturday, along with some of our fishy fashion show models. So I think that's just going to be a really good time. And kids that come in their Halloween costumes, any sort of costume, can trick or treat because our vendors will all have candy there. And then lastly, next week we're actually having a benefit for the Maritime Center at Hammond-Knockers Oasis. It's a rally for the coast, and Rick Ott Band and friends will be there, $5 admission at 8 o'clock at Hammond-Knockers. And we hope that you will pass the proclamation that we've presented to you to make October 30th Mighty Mullet Maritime Festival Day this year. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next, under presentations and announcements, is for NOPE, Task Force National Candlelight Vigil. Gail Myers.
Hi, I'm Gail Myers. I am a member of the Wakulla County Coalition, former secretary, and I'm also an in-home counselor for Disc Village. And I would like to invite all of you to come to our NOPE Candlelight Vigil. NOPE stands for Narcotics Overdose Prevention Education, which will also be held on October the 28th, Thursday. It will begin at 6:30 with a reception, and at 6:45 go into a candlelight vigil. The Narcotics Overdose Prevention and Education is a national organization that was formed in 2004 for the education and awareness of substance abuse to combat the 24,000 deaths that happen in the United States every year from drug overdose. So I would like to invite all of you to come and enjoy the musicians, speakers. It's going to be at Hudson Park, October the 28th at 6:30 p.m. At the Pavilion. And we will have a dramatic dance team come. It was going to be very eye-opening for the reality of drugs rather than just the statistics that mostly what we hear about. There will also be an ongoing video that shows 200 faces of young people and older people who have died of substance abuse overdose. So it'll be a very powerful and great presentation. Our biggest challenge is in getting awareness out to the public. So I really wanted to come here today to invite you all and to have you extend the invitation. I have some of these NOPE organization pamphlets that I'm going to be putting more out on the flyer and out in the foyer, and I would like to give them to the commissioners here. And I hope you can all show up on October the 28th at Hudson Park. Thank you.
And can you repeat the time of that again?
It's at 6:30 for the reception. We'll have some refreshments and music playing, and then it starts at 6:45.
Okay, thank you.
Can I give you each one of these now?
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the presentation by Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
They are stuck in traffic.
They are stuck in traffic, so we'll accommodate them when they...
Yeah, they're on their way down, and I got a text message and then my phone died. So they're headed this way.
Okay. So we'll try to accommodate them somewhere in the program. Wakulla Garden is an announcement. As many of you know, that we had a grant for putting gravel into Wakulla Gardens, and it's been a significant grant, and it's been a laborious process, but I think we have light at the end of the tunnel, and I think this coming week there should be activity in Wakulla Gardens for all of those citizens that are now living in soft sand that lived in mud when it was rainy. This is going to be a significant betterment for their roads. It's certainly going to help them stabilize on a temporary basis. So that was the announcement, and the board, I think I can speak for the board, is being very pleased that this is actually starting to happen. Okay, with that, I just want to mention that we do have a segment of the meeting that's citizens to be heard, and we try to schedule that between 6:30 and 7. If we have a meeting that's very short, we may have to drag our feet to get to 6:30, or maybe have it happen before. But citizens are given 3 minutes to speak, and we appreciate your cooperation with sticking with that time frame. And so we'll probably be getting there somewhere around 6:30 to 7 o'clock. Yes?
And I did want to mention, and I'll mention it again at the end of the meeting, that early voting started today. I have my I voted sticker on. Everybody who's registered to vote in Wakulla County is welcome to go down to the courthouse, not the courthouse, to the supervisor elections office and cast your vote. And it'll be open this weekend also, I believe, on Saturday.
I believe you're right.
So make sure you go out and cast your vote.
Good.
Sorry.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'm pulling item 5. Would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 5.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Brock, to approve as with the exception of item 5. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Item 5. The reason why I pulled this off the consent agenda, I think it's a little, well, it's something that I'm not totally clear on. I think I understand it, but I'd like maybe the county attorney to walk us through that.
Sure. Currently, you have a code enforcement board. What this sets up is a process. In the recent past, they've received some requests to abate some of the liens on property that has been cleaned, but fines are accruing. Although that is allowed by statute, Chapter 162, you don't have a local process for staff to adhere to in processing those types of requests. And what this ordinance does is sets forth a process to be used by county staff and the board to address any requests for waivers or reductions. It provides criteria for you to consider, provides for issuance of a decision, either granting or denying, or granting in part and denying in part. And it also goes ahead and formalizes the process for release and satisfaction of code liens that have been paid in full, and it gives the county administrator the ability to release those liens when they've been paid in full. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. I would note that this did go to the Code Enforcement Board, and they took a look at it. One thing, if you look on page 2 of your agenda summary where there's bullets, those were some of their comments and suggestions. Some of them have been addressed and some of them have not in the ordinance that's in your book.
And there's also a paragraph that has the statement that it may not be necessary to require this additional review by code enforcement for reduction or forgiveness of code lien, as this step will delay processing of the applications and etc.
Well, what happens with your code enforcement board? They come in, they obviously, ones that issue violations, make findings, they set the fines. So one of the things that the code board asked in this process for the reduction of fines that have already been set and have been accruing is that the matter be brought to them first, which you certainly can do. The ordinance is not structured that way right now, and the reason it isn't is because, one, the Code Enforcement Board set the fines originally, so it seemed a little bit redundant to go back to them and ask them to then reverse themselves and change the fines. Two, legally, this board is the entity that the liens are recorded in favor of, so the ultimate decision is yours. And while we certainly can include that extra step, it did seem to be a little bit more bureaucracy, and it would definitely delay the processing. And when these types of fines accrue daily, so while it's going to code board and then waiting the requisite amount of time to come back to this board, these fines are still accruing.
And that's my concern. I think, one, it may send a message that maybe those fines aren't real. And the second message is that we're throwing an extra step in the process, that if there's a legitimate need to do something here, the quicker we act, the better, and the ultimate decision maker is the board. So that's my concern with going forward with this board discussion. Or how does the board feel on it?
Well, it's my understanding that what we have doesn't include that suggestion, that it go back to the code enforcement.
It would go to code enforcement.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't.
would not.
No, the way we have it drafted, that step is not included. We have it coming directly through staff to this board.
Okay.
But we just did want to point out that that was something that the code enforcement board discussed at their last meeting.
Okay, so the way it stands right now, that was part of the thing that I was trying to get my arms around, is that there would not be the code enforcement step in this.
That's correct.
It would come to us if someone
Yeah.
felt that they needed to. And does it come to us in the position of the board, or does it come to us in the position of another hat that the board wears?
As the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. Okay.
So is this a housekeeping step that you think we need to take as the attorney? I mean, I'm listening to you for guidance whether we need to do it or not.
I think it's good to have a process set forth. I mean, you have had people request where they've come in and bought a piece of property with code liens on it. They've cleaned it up and they've said, hey, I've done all this. Can you guys give me a break? Help me out here. And this doesn't entitle them to that, but it sets out a process where they can at least be heard. And I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, and I agree, and now I'm clear on it, and I appreciate a motion to move forward.
Also move that we approve.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Green, to approve as written. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
I just wanted to clarify, we're just approving to schedule and advertise a public hearing.
That's correct.
That's written.
Okay.
We're going to go back one step to the awards and presentations, to have a presentation by Big Brothers and Big Sisters by Meredith Crow and Louis Garcia.
Chairman and Commissioners and the community members, thank you for the time to come up here and speak to y'all about Big Brothers Big Sisters. Introduce yourselves to me. I'm the new CEO for Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Big Bend. I've been in this position for just over a year, but I've been with Big Brothers Big Sisters for over 5 years, and I'm sure Wakulla County has seen someone from Big Brothers Big Sisters in the past, and I don't know too much of the history of how much things have been followed through with in terms of visibility and a presence. But after being in the position of CEO for a year, I'm very intentional of what next step in terms of the counties that are reaching out to us to funnel resources and actually walk a little bit behind the talk. And there's some community members that have approached us. One anonymous donor got this started, said, I will want to give you a significant amount of money to be visible and to provide some services to the youth in Wakulla County. And so I committed to not only matching the donation, finding the rest of the money so I can hire someone from Wakulla County to serve the children and families who have been sitting on our waiting list and who are calling us regularly to say, can you please do something for my child, usually my son in Wakulla County, or my daughter. And so we are launching a campaign just to educate community members. We have a group of allies from Wakulla County, an advisory group of citizens who are born and raised here or serving in the public service, and we're doing something about it. We're just walk a little bit behind the talk. And so we are going to be more visible, and our goal is to raise, we've raised already $12,000. We have $8,000 more to go, and ready to launch, to hire someone and to have a satellite presence. We have consideration in-kind donations for office space and technology, and that's not what is stopping this at all, but really now is to rally the energy and our commitment to have a presence and a long-standing sustainable presence. I think that's been a problem in the past where we say we do something with one funding source and then we go away when the money runs out, and that is a disservice to the youth and to the families that we work with. And so starting on November 20th, we're going to have the big catch. It's a fish fry in town, and that will be the kind of a kickoff to educate the rest of the community that and youth serving allies that we want to do something and we want to start something, and it will be an aspect of it is to raise some money through the sales of the meals, and right after that the next step will be to hire someone for 2011 and get that rolling, and we have some numbers in terms of what we look at for the youth who need service in Wakulla County. Out of the 5,400 school-aged children, 430, which is 8%, live in single-parent homes. 104 children live with an incarcerated parent, and that's a statistic from the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. So 104 children in Wakulla County have an incarcerated parent, and over 1,800 children living in poverty. And those are the families that are calling us and asking us for a mentor or a role model. The irony is, while we have a waiting list of children, we also have a waiting list of volunteers that have self-selected to come to us and say, I want to do something about it. And so it's painful for me to see what volunteers in our waiting list and the children, and so I want to match them up. I want to do something and get them going together, and that's what this whole campaign about is. We're able to move pretty quickly, and my commitment outside of Leon County, because that's the biggest concern question, is our offices in Leon County, but I'm not looking to go anywhere else first. Wakulla County is my priority outside of Leon County, to have a sustainable staff person for longevity, and not just the one time when we get money, but really do something and match the dollars to keep it here and have a presence to someone that lives here and works here. We have okay, there's no sound, so we had a little video, one of those inspiring things that hopefully we get a tear out of some folks in the room when you see it, but you can get it from our website.
We normally have sound.
But I welcome any questions, comments, full transparency in my eyes.
Any questions from the board?
What day was that fundraiser?
November 20th.
And where's it going to be?
It is at Hudson Park.
Excellent.
From 11 to 2. We're going to have a bluegrass band out there, too, to entertain.
That's excellent.
Are you establishing a satellite office here?
The goal is when we hire someone to find, there are partners that are willing to donate a space where we can have some confidential meetings, but maybe someone would work from home but have access to a space to do interviews, a boardroom, and someone from the University of Florida IFAS Extension has already offered for us to use their boardroom and office space and technology.
There's been several offers for space down here. The goal would be to hire someone from Wakulla County in a part-time capacity to coordinate the activities of mentoring in Wakulla County. This would be, I think it's a great program. I appreciate you all doing this outreach.
And in terms of numbers, the magic number is $20,000. That allows me to hire a 20 to 25 hours a week person for a year.
We'll be coordinating with, our school systems have mentor programs.
Yes, we have a partnership with the Wakulla district schools, and whatever we can do to work together. The goal is 15 to 20 matches in this year, and that's the baseline number for sustainability. And we'll need to work with the schools. That's something that will have to happen, and we have a relationship with them.
All right. Do you want to play your video one more time?
Sure.
And turn up the sound? So everyone can be inspired.
and I can't assume everyone knows what Big Brothers Big Sisters achieves or is. We facilitate one-to-one mentoring with a caring adult with each child, and then provide professional support through case management with the child and the family and the volunteer for the life of the relationship and the match. And so the office will oversee the operation from the volunteer screening, assessment, background checks, and compliance with all the background screening that we have to do to ensure the safety of the child, and then all the family assessment, screening, and then making the best match, because our goal is to make matches that last as long as possible for at least a year. And then for the life of that match, having support and coaching and ongoing training.
And if people are interested in sponsoring the fish fry or making donations to Big Brother Big Sister or volunteering with Big Brothers Big Sisters taking a leadership role, is there a contact number or email or person?
Yes, sir. The contact email could be info@bbbsbigbend.org. Our website is bbbsbigbend.org. Our phone number is 386-6002. And if through the website or calling us, we can get you in our queue if you're interested for the corporate sponsorships for the fish fry, or to find out more about volunteering and or getting a child enrolled. And at the event, the goal of the event is to orient and educate the community about what we are, what we achieve, and we'll have plenty of information there. So the big catch, November 20th.
That's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, so if you're thinking that you're going to be preparing Thanksgiving food and getting ready to make a big turkey, and you want to try and have a different meal that Saturday, I think tickets are going to be $10, and come out and have some fish. That should be a great time from Posey's.
That's right. You don't have to cook the rest of the week. You can buy a bunch of baskets.
I just wanted to say I think it's wonderful that you're going to have more of a presence here. I would also encourage you to get involved with the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth. You'll find a lot of partners and support in that organization. And their next meeting is November 3rd. I can email you some information.
Outstanding. That is one group who need to take the advisement and be involved. So the chamber too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Moving on to general business at this point in time.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, first item under general business, hot mic, is update to the board regarding housing division programs and request for some of your direction on corrective actions. I'm not going to get into as much detail as I did at the last meeting, but you've seen this now twice. This is what you had requested be tabled until this meeting. Commissioners, you're aware that we've had significant outreach from some of the oversight agencies, be they federal or state, for some of our housing division programs. Additional background regarding that outreach is on pages 1, 2, and into 3. The board of individual commissioners during the past couple of meetings, maybe 2 to 3 meetings, have brought up individually the potential for privatization. You have 2 issues really, I think, before you tonight, two key issues. Privatization or not is one of them, and those are options 2 and 3 respectively. And there's some moving parts underneath those we can talk about. But the first one, and I don't want it to get lost in the discussion, is something that HUD really initiated, and that's regarding Section 8. Now, HUD is the oversight agency for that program. They have initiated dialogue and a desire for us to interim contract with the Tallahassee Housing Authority to provide that service. I've talked with the Tallahassee Housing Authority. HUD is the one who's generating that process and that draft agreement, which I've yet to review. Now, there's one FTE, one current FTE on county staff that does that job. And I've talked to the Housing Authority for consideration for that individual. And as of right now, they're amenable to that. So I did want you to be aware of it. But I would like to get your opinion on whether to proceed with that or not. Quite frankly, if you determine you do not want to proceed with that, we'll see how HUD handles that. Just leave it at that. But those are the two primary issues, and we're here to answer any questions. I note that much of your housing division staff is here, and there's also potential for discussion on, you may remember, Commissioners, you had issued an RFP for a review of the programs and services, and that's option number 2. Basically, and you're in a position where you can approve that. It would be just shy of $30,000 to complete the review. And if you do not wish to privatize, I think that would be money well spent. Although I do note for the record that many of these agencies have provided updates that have pretty well detailed what our shortcomings are and what we need to do to fix them. If you do decide that you would like to proceed with investigating a outsourcing of these programs, I do not think it's wise money to spend, because I think more than enough information exists for a potential bidder, and there are private companies that specialize in these services. I think there's more than enough information for them to give an RFP response, if that is your direction. And I think that basically will perform, whoever the winning bidder in that process would be performing their own on-site review of what we need to do to make improvements anyway. I guess that's the overview.
I move that we schedule a workshop on November 4th. The workshop would be a presentation from housing on the steps necessary to address the concerns and solutions that they would offer, and also a presentation from administration on the advantages for outsourcing all of our programs.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Brock, second by Commissioner Stewart to schedule a workshop November 4th, at which time both housing and administration will give input.
That being, firstly, I seen Jessica, I have another workshop scheduled November 4th that I'll be willing to move to later, as soon as possible later, to allow for time. My roads workshop. December preferably, but we have a workshop. We'll talk. We'll figure out another date for that workshop.
Okay. So we have citizens to speak on this item. Mr. Ralph Thomas.
Commissioners, Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. I just want to encourage you to strongly consider outsourcing this to outside agencies, to Tallahassee or consultants outside of this county. It seems like there's a mindset that we're not in a position to solve our own problems here in this county, and I think that's very insulting. And I know you're not heading down that road, but I just wanted to encourage you to not head down that road. I think there's sufficient talent here that we can definitely solve our own problems without turning it over to a Tallahassee agency. I suggest that if we can't solve our own problems, it might be time to get a new batch of problem solvers so we can handle that here at the local level. There's sufficient talent here. I know there's an organization that is in place in this county that has a talent pool that could step forward, and I don't know that has been reached out yet, but there are places where that can be done. Attorney Francis Casey Lowe represents an agency that could step forward and provide those consulting services here if need be. So I'd like to encourage you to look at all options, and let's don't be quick to send our problems up the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. David Donaldson.
David Donaldson, 191 Duncan Drive. I'm a little nervous. I have a two-part question regarding the RFP effort to seek an outside review of all programs within the Housing Division. Would the board consider approving the review to accurately and confirm operational and functional problems within the Housing Division, and to confirm if the Housing Division conducted any corrective measures to remedy the problems found through previous audits by the county? And my second question, I think is answered by you, sir, is has any workshops been done by the county to try and resolve any issues in the Housing Department? And I'll defer to the board for your response. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly had much discussion on this at prior meetings, and my recollection, I'm not clear on whether we had a workshop or not, but there's been, I think, ample discussion and ample documentation of what we have before us. And we have now this newly scheduled workshop that will take place. So I think we've addressed both on both levels. Ms. Renee Calhoun.
Commissioners, my name is Renee Calhoun. I live at 211 Bettywood Circle.
There's two.
Commissioners, after contacting Washington, D.C. and the field office in Jacksonville about the Housing Department's Section 8 program, because trying to get pertinent paperwork from this administration is nearly impossible, I recently received some more documents. These documents show a failure that began within the first year of Mr. Pingree's administration. At the end of January, a final CMAP for 2006 states that the program has received 100 out of 135 points is at a standard status. In March of 2008, the 2007 states that the program received 80 points out of the 135. Then in December of 2008, and it was still troubled, by the way, the report is sent, and you can see that the administrator clearly knew that the program was troubled. 1 month later, in January of 2009, another report is sent. Now the score has dropped to 35 points out of the 135, and for the second year of Mr. Pingree's reign as administrator. So the program still remains troubled, and nothing gets fixed. The next report is the 2009. It's received in September, and now the score has dropped to 25 points, and it remains in troubled status, and fails in all areas that had passed in years before. I recently found that in the tentative budget of 2011, when Mr. Pingree states under major accomplishments for 2010 that the CMAP status not only went from troubled, but it skipped right over and through standard and became a high-performance program. That, Commissioners, was not true, and it speaks volumes about the way this administration is run. If I had not done the research and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Housing Department was failing, Mr. Pingree and Mr. Nelson would still be standing here telling you all was well. The way this mess is handled seems to be the way the entire administration is run, and there is no accountability anywhere. Outsource these programs. There are local, not-for-profit agencies that can and will run these programs properly and better than the staff. It is past time for all qualified residents of Wakulla County to start receiving the benefits of these programs. And Commissioners, by the way, in the real world, people get fired for when they do their jobs this bad. Thank you.
Mr. Larry Roberts.
Commissioner Larry Roberts, Sarchoppy. As you've heard, this is nothing new. Matter of fact, Commissioner Kessler brought this to our attention back in May, and it's been talked about at almost every meeting since. And the only thing that seems to get done is we attack the messenger, or you attack the messenger. We may have the ability within this county to take care of it ourselves, but obviously it's not an employee of the county. So I suggest you outsource it. And I would say that heads should roll. I don't know whose head, that should be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you. More discussion?
I guess I'd ask Alan what you expect to gain out of the workshop. I mean, what more can we find out than we already know?
I went and met again with housing staff today, and I was talking to them about what I saw coming, because at the start of the day today, I was prepared to moving towards privatization, moving towards a different agency taking things over. It's something I was at least seriously considering. And I met with them, and I tried to talk with them about where I was coming from and what their views were, because I wouldn't want to do that without speaking with them. And it was brought up to me that we would be doing away with the whole department without even, and I really talked about here that we wouldn't even have a workshop on it. And I said, and I told them I have a workshop scheduled, and I said, how long will it take you to prepare materials to talk about why you think we shouldn't do this? And they said 2 weeks. I had a workshop scheduled in 2 weeks that I was willing to move, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to talk to all of us, and they thought a workshop would be a better environment than the full board meeting because they thought it would take some more time to discuss these issues further. So, and I wasn't against giving them the opportunity for a workshop.
It's 2 weeks away. Just agree. Commission agree.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I'm glad that you made the recommendation for a workshop. I feel that that's the proper place to air some of the information that's evidently not out there and needs to be known about the program. So I'm happy that you've done
that. Further discussion?
I also have had several meetings with different members of the Housing Division. I haven't met with every single one, but a number. I guess, and I appreciate that, this would be a good opportunity for the housing folks to have a say. What exactly were you envisioning? I think the other half of it was that administration would do something. What are you envisioning on that?
What I'd like to see come out of the workshop. We've talked a lot about outsourcing. We've been discussing, and I think that's the direction that that we're moving towards. But I wanted to give the opportunity for housing to present their views on how they could fix the problems with the perceived problems, and how we can improve our ratings that we're getting from the advisory boards from above. At the same time, I know they also have other suggestions for things they think might make things run smoother. They've mentioned that I've talked to them about the idea of having a housing authority, and they would like to discuss that idea. From us, though, I'd like our administration and to discuss the advantages or what could happen if we move forward with outsourcing it. What that means for us if we go with an agency outside of Wakulla County, or if there is an agency inside of Wakulla County, I'd be glad to consider that as we talk about these things. What it would take if we ever wanted to bring it back to Wakulla County if we lost it. And what does that mean for how we're helping people with time lap? Do they anticipate if we switch from to privatizers? There's so many things that have been addressed, but just having the whole conversation and talking about why we're doing this so that we can move forward and figure out what our next steps are and give them the opportunity for a workshop. Again, I thought it was a very valid argument. If we're going to do away with the department that we can have a workshop on it. We've had workshops on less significant decisions.
Okay, I'm always happy to have workshops. I don't mind that at all. But I also kind of would like to go ahead and move forward on some other fronts, simultaneously. There's no commitments, and as I've explained to staff, just one step at a time, and you can decide at any point you don't want to take the next step. But I personally do not see much of a need for the second option that's in the agenda item at this point, to award the RFP for the detailed review that we had originally expressed interest in earlier in the summer. I would like more information about option 1. And I don't know whether the workshop's an opportunity to do that, but maybe we could have some people a presentation or information about that. And I'm also getting a little bit mixed information about whether it's really HUD that's proposing it or not. So I just want some of that clarified. And then, to go ahead and move forward with drafting the RFP, I don't see that commits us to anything necessarily, but moves us, if that's the direction we want to go, we'll just have taken a step further and look in that, preparing that document, and we can choose to issue it or not issue it. I know there was some discussion about whether it needed to come back to the board or not. I think right now it is scheduled to come back at the November 15th meeting, is that?
Well, are you back on 1 or option 3?
I'm on 3 now.
Okay, well, both would have to come back to you, I believe. Let me just clarify,
Okay.
I don't know what other information is out there, but I'll tell you from my office or from my chair, HUD is driving the train on the outsourcing. Now, I'll follow up. I note Mr. Thomas's comments and the board's concerns about local. I'll ask if there's someone locally, and I'll ask if they're as ingrained as they've been with me, as far as this being something that is important to do with some urgency. But that's on number 1. So that's the extent of it. On option 3, we would have to bring an RFP back to you. Then we would have to bring back a recommendation back to you. I mean, there's a number of steps, and I don't know if we got into too much detail on this item. And we'll do whatever the board wants us to do. If you want us to draft something, we'll draft it. If you want to wait for the workshop, that's fine too. But our intention, or my thinking, is. Yes, there are private companies that specialize in this. I'm hearing some maybe in this county. Okay, I mean, I think everybody would have fair access if you issue an RFP for this purpose. Lost my track. Oh. But in that RFP document, there can be, and in my opinion, there should be some protection for the existing staff. And I don't want that to be lost even at this level of the discussion.
I agree.
Okay,
I thought that was helpful to have, it was proposed that, and I've expressed this to the housing staff that I've met with. One, I think it's very important that we continue to have the service provided here in the county, so our citizens don't have to go up to Tallahassee. So I want to make sure that something like that's included in the RFP. The suggestion was made that the annex lease be included in the RFP. And I want all of our housing department employees to have a trial period with whoever might take this on an outsourcing basis. So those who are capable but would have the benefit of a new system would have a chance to show that they should be retained. And, all of that can be done in the RFP. So we're scheduling a workshop, and there can be preparations made for those presentations, but I would say let's go ahead and start drafting so we can look at an RFP. And I want to even know who are the possible people that might be able to provide services. I don't know anything about who's available.
And I would actually, anything else you would like to see about this? My goal in having this done, and I know it's another 2 weeks away, but I want to see this. I want to see this done. I want to see us have a decision where we can move forward and start making progress and helping the people we need to help in Wakulla County. I was talking with Ms. Calhoun again today, and she was mentioning winter's coming. She's right, winter is coming. We want to make sure that everybody's getting help. And I'm not to say our housing department isn't helping people, but things are giving the appearance of not running as smooth as they could. And we want to make sure that we're getting things done. I don't want to see, if we decide to privatize, there being a big gap where all of a sudden we have another cold winter and no one's getting any housing things fixed the entire winter because we're changing things out. If we do this RFP and we take ourselves out of it, will we be doing an RFP every 2 years to an agency, or all of a sudden do our funders take over from there? They've given us the money to be outsourced at this time, and then we've washed our hands with it. So we can say where it goes for the next year or two, and then after that, have they send the money to people? And I don't know. This is the question. These are questions I have. Will the money be awarded by HUD to another agency, and we'll never see the money in Wakulla again, and we can't have control over who's getting it? Will it be going to agencies in Tallahassee? We keep it from happening now, but in the future, people who don't have the money to fix their homes, they don't have the money to go to Tallahassee to see the people who are trying to fix their homes either. These are the concerns I have. And that's what I'd like to see come out of this workshop and have this conversation. If you want to bring the workshop's in 2 weeks, and we're short on staff at the moment because of 2 of our lead people are on maternity leave. If we have time to start putting together some points, I don't know if you can bring up anything you'd like to see covered in the RFP. If we talk about outsourcing, have it ready for the workshop to discuss it there. That might be too much of a burden.
Well, how long a workshop do you want?
Well, the one we're canceling is 2 hours.
Okay. I mean, we could have it. We could try and put together like a draft sheet or points on that. But having an actual RFP document ready, probably not. But
and the goal of this is I really want to see us move forward. Our housing department is demoralized from the ongoing conversations that have been happening here. Our community is sincerely concerned about the fact that we are getting reports that we're not doing as well as we should be doing. We have to figure out a way to move forward. And that's what I'm hoping out of this workshop, which maybe I'm probably being way too optimistic about what we can do in a workshop, but I want to see us move forward and come away with a solution. And with community buy-in. I want our community to come away feeling like they're, or at least the best we can, because we may not be able to get enough community buy-in, but I'd like our community to feel like they have the chance to participate and help give insight into this, because I think there's a lot of people, especially from the phone calls and emails I'm getting, who are concerned about this.
All right. I'll be going into this workshop with a certain prejudice. I think that we're not just in a little bit of trouble, that we're in a lot of trouble, and I don't think we can turn things around within ourselves. So that's my prejudice going in, but I certainly support your motion for the workshop in 2 weeks. I think that's certainly reasonable. I think it's also reasonable to expect from staff that they would have a draft RFP for us to sort of look at and see what they're intending to put out there. I think that's also reasonable. But I think it's also reasonable, we're talking about protecting existing staff. There's this line that separates the administration and the board, and we're policy. And there's the administration, which is implementation. The administration is supposed to implement running a county government. I just find it totally unacceptable that for such a long time to be aware of problems and not correct them is totally unacceptable. Protection of the existing staff. I mean, if you don't step in and help them, if you don't correct what needs to be corrected, then we're exposing and we're endangering staff. So I think that as a board, we set policy, And we expect our administrator to run an efficient and accountable staff. And I think that's failed. It hasn't happened. We'll call for the motion. All those in favor of having the workshop on November 4th, is that correct? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Did you want additional input, or was that just a speech?
Do we need another motion related to the RFP?
I think the staff can determine whether they want to bring to us an RFP or not. I mean, it's their workshop to bring whatever materials they want to bring to that workshop.
No, I'd appreciate board direction if you want us to engage in the work and utilization of staff resources to develop a comprehensive RFP. You let me know. And quite frankly, commissioners, this is a policy decision, whether you wish to outsource or not. And quite frankly, we've done peer-to-peer training. We've brought in outside agencies to train. I just disagree strongly, Mr. Chairman, with your assertions. Well, I do agree that, yes, administration is this side of the table, and we should be accountable, but I don't agree with how you're characterizing what's occurred.
Can we agree that you failed?
No.
It's okay. And I have spoken with housing staff as well, and I don't hear from them when you've rolled up your sleeves and gotten in there and helped them. I don't hear that from housing. Okay? So, for me, that's failure. 3 years of being totally out of compliance is failure. And I don't know. That's my opinion. And, you know, rolling up the sleeves and being short of staff, we are short of staff. I'll stop there. I won't say any more.
Well, I wouldn't make a motion then, because I know the public thinks things move so slowly in government, and I think we'll go to the workshop with as you know, open minds, but with the information we also have so far. But I would also I move that we direct staff to begin or to develop an RFP to outsource all programs within the housing division.
Second. There's a motion and a second to have staff work on an RFP regarding the outsourcing of housing. And a motion by Commissioner Arts, second by Commissioner Stewart. Any further board discussion?
Only that it would include some of the things we discussed about retaining staff on a trial basis. And
is there a timeline? Do you want it by the workshop?
I'll let staff. They had originally aimed for the November 15th meeting. If they can bring some things to the workshop where they want some discussion or whatever, that would be helpful.
I want to reiterate, because if we move in this direction, I agree with you. My biggest frustration since being elected, and it's not with our staff, it's things I observed at all levels, is just sort of the speed at some things move. And I'm not blaming staff for that. I've seen it at all levels in government. I was optimistic that when I got elected, we could speed things up. But that's not a complaint here. It's just the nature of government. It's my impression at this moment. If we move in that direction, I want to see us move as quickly forward as we can. I want to reiterate that we're going to have a workshop, and at that workshop we may come away with a different solution. So and we may have a whole different variation that we want to see come out of the RFP too. So we may want different changes in there. So just as we're moving forward, keep that in mind.
But if it's in a draft form, and you know, the workshop could be helpful in modifying it.
I agree. So I'll make a comment to speed of government. I think it's important that government, especially the policy side of government, moves with deliberation and steadiness. And I think this board has not been slack on making its policy decisions. And again, I go back to the administration on items that we task the administration with are not getting done in a timely manner. And I think there's failure not only in this area, but there's failures in other areas. I think as far as policy, we have not pushed things off. All right, with that, there's a motion and a second to have the RFP for the workshop as noted with the...
For staff to begin to develop the RFP.
And I just want to add in, I think we ask a lot of the small staff.
And, you know, I think that our staff in our office is certainly sufficient, okay? And I think that when people are out, it's not a good time to take a leave. So we'll call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, I'm sorry. It's 4-1 for the against the RFP. Okay. Commissioner Green.
Okay, Commissioners, your next item is item number 10. This is request board consideration authorization to repair Station 8, Crawfordville VFD. Authorize staff to seek the preliminary engineering costs and necessary loan funding to complete the proposed renovation. I note that Director McDermott is walking over. I also note that I apologize, I'm failing to remember the exact title of this committee. It's the committee that Commissioner Stewart chairs, the sort of operational advisory committee. We've all noted the concerns with this station. And Scott, do you want to elaborate just what the thinking is in trying to basically expedite this station towards being repaired and put back into service?
Well, exactly. We've had some occurrences recently that have moved us out of the station, and we are taking up space that's dedicated for training. We want to get the station repaired both for the volunteers that use that facility, but also for our staff who's housed there, so we then can return our training grounds to its training function. So, and I've asked for help from Office of Management and Budget to help with the funding side, because we're venturing into an area that a road I've not been down yet. So, but other than that,
if it doesn't displease the board, I'd maybe like to hear these inputs, especially if we have the chief here. We have two chiefs, actually. Okay, thank you. Chief Brazier.
I think your mic's on.
Sorry, Chief Brazier.
R.C. Brazier, 60 Holiday Drive. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. That station has needed the work here for quite a while now, and we just took a tremendous blow in our funding, over 50% cut in the fire service in Wakulla County. And that money was available to repair that, and now we are having to take out a loan to do it. I would encourage you to move on it tonight to get started, so we can get started and get going on this building and get our people back. We're going to have to do it as quickly as we can, and I'd appreciate your concern.
Chief?
Yes.
Would you be opposed to, if there was a method to make some temporary fixes that wouldn't necessitate the county in taking out a loan? If there were different options that were available, would you be opposed to that, or is this the only route that we can take?
We've looked at some, that sort of thing. I would be opposed to those. We've tried patching the roof already. The patch worked, but all the way around the edge of the patch is still leaking. The whole roof needs fixing. including trusses, and to patch a roof that we actually need to raise. We need to raise our ceiling height in there to be able to accommodate bigger trucks. If we ever want a ladder truck in Crawfordville, which we do, it doesn't make much sense to put money into patching a roof when we could, at the same time, raise it to the height that we need it and do the whole job and not have the problem with the living quarters that we have now.
Is the primary concern, or at least I thought the primary concern for the firefighters was their living conditions?
That is a primary concern.
And, I've heard of mold, and I've heard of pests, and probably leaking in there thing also. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm assuming it is.
Yes.
So, and what I'm struggling with is, we've set a budget for this year, and I have some questions of where some of the money that was, originally we were supposed to go in and get a grant, or hoping to get a grant, and we had a match of $200,000 that was budgeted, I think, last year for that grant, and to build a new station.
We did apply for a grant.
Right, and we didn't get the grant.
We were turned down.
And that $200,000, I'm not quite sure how that flowed. That'll be one of the questions that I'll ask later. But I'm just trying to avoid us from being in the posture of, we've used up one credit card, now let's go to another one. And, I'm looking for the cheapest possible fix that will have a safe environment for our firefighters. And I'm thinking of, how much does a modular cost with 2 bedrooms and a shower and a, bathroom, kitchen? Raise their living quarters, get rid of it, and put that in place. And yeah, we don't have a roof on a fire station we need, but we're eventually going to have a new firehouse, or a major renovation like we're about to embark now.
Yeah. Now the renovation we're talking about here is just the bays, which includes the living quarters on the back of those bays. We also have a problem with the height of the bay floor itself. We get water in there a lot. It's actually too low. So we're to do it properly, we're actually talking about replacing the bays, which is to do the roof properly and raise it is going to cost a lot of money, and to replace it with a metal building, which is one of the things we've been looking at, isn't much more. And then you've got a whole new, you got something that's permanent. Something's going to last then, and you're not going to be patching anymore. And you've got something with the right height for a ladder truck for whenever, and you'd have the elevation right on the floor. It really is necessary. Sure, you can patch, but it would just be a patch. I'd hate to see that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Did you want to say something additional? Okay. Ralph Thomas.
Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. I just want to discourage you from going deeper into debt. Debt is what got our country in the situation that's in right now, and we need to make sure that we're living within our means. We've heard on numerous occasions that the volunteers have built the wonderful firefighting system that we have now, debt-free, and amassed reserves in the midst of that. A lot of conversation has come out recently, and I understand even when you were making the decision to do the Fire MSBU cut, if I remember correctly, there's still almost $1 million in reserves that's in that budget right now. So I suggest that we take a look at that, and if this is the most critical need, maybe we can tap into that before we consider borrowing additional money when we have money that's already there. Also, the 1-cent sales tax, a certain percentage of that goes toward facilities, and this is the sort of things that we need to take a strong look at, prioritize these things, and there's no doubt that we want our firefighters to have excellent facilities, excellent equipment. We just don't need to go into debt to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Russell. on the committee that Mr. Stewart's on, and we approved this idea. We were, as you know, the firefighters had moved into the training building, and the volunteers were very upset about it, and Mr. Stewart proposed this as a way to make peace, and it was, but just had some second thoughts or buyer's remorse or whatever, and I'm not against fixing Station 8. It's got to be fixed eventually, but I've never seen even a sketch of what they're going to do, and a rough estimate, just a rough estimate of what it might cost to do it. My position is we might spend $300,000, tear down the whole thing, and have something that'll take us 20, 25 years into the future, rather than spending $200,000 just fixing the truck bay. I asked Mr. McDermott to move this to 2 weeks from now, and I just wanted to have a little bit more information before you did decide to borrow money or whatever. I know how it'll be paid back. We'll have to raise the MSBU to pay it back, but I'd like to know how much we've got to raise it to pay it back. I mean, the work needs to be done, but they've got to have a better station. But they might just need an entirely new station and not just a repair job, a patch job at $200,000 versus maybe a little bit more or even double more, whatever. Look at what it would take to fix the place where we could go well into the future without spending any more money on it. That's all I had to say. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Ola?
Sharon Lola, and I'm as tax collector, and I wasn't sure if this was the right place, but since you started talking about it, I'm going to give you a copy of a check which will be deposited in your account tomorrow for the excess MSBU that I'm holding, $21,379.94, so that can be added to some of their monies.
Thank you. Mr. Steve Foltz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Foltz, 35 Montecoupe Circle. I appreciate the opportunity this evening. I have to concur with the thought process of let's evaluate all the options that are out there. I also concur with the thought process that we absolutely not borrow money and pay interest on this repair. I think it's also important, I believe there was $200,000 match that was in the budget well over a year ago, so we've known for quite some time now, well over a year I'm certain, that this building was in dire need of some repair. I understand that that was a match for a grant. It would be interesting to know at what point we realized that this grant was not going to be awarded, because in my opinion, the minute that we knew we should not have had that grant, there should have been an agenda item before this board and a policy decision should have been made. Do we want to fix it now? Do we want to transfer this money to another CIP account? Or what is it we need to do way back when? Not wait until we have an emergency situation and now we have a $350,000 brand new fire truck that's sitting out in the weather. That is absolutely a cardinal sin in the fire services. You do not let apparatus sit outside, and we're doing that right now. It's a shame that some people were not proactive prior to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair? A couple questions. One is $200,000 that was set aside for match for that grant last year's.
Yes.
Where did that go?
It was zeroed out. Project was zeroed out.
And where did that $200,000 go?
It went to support the rest of the budget, or it went in. The Commission remembers during the budget process in the workshop and the hearing that we had for the MSBU, we stated to the board that the way the budget is set and the level that you're setting it at, we're going to be reducing all our capital projects, which included building Station 8, in order to preserve the fund balance that we had and to maintain the level of service that we were providing. So citizens are right. There is a fund balance out there. It wasn't brought forward in the budget in order to preserve it. So there really is no way we can go dip into it now. We're past that point. The budget's been passed. So that fund balance is securely sitting there, but we can't go tap into it unless we want to go through the whole budget process again. So I hope that answers your question, but that's kind of where all those projects were zeroed out. We put a minimum reserve in there for an emergency. We could fund a loan for 1 year, and if next year the board decides that they want to pay off that loan completely, we can tap into that fund balance and pay it off completely. I mean, those are kind of the options that we have at this point.
So the process of a budget amendment that couldn't be utilized?
No, so you need to recognize, in order to utilize that fund balance, we would have to recognize there's a revenue coming forward into the budget for this year. We only recognized $150,000 of the $650,000 that was available in order to recognize it as a revenue. The other balance is still sitting out there undesignated. So we no longer have that option to utilize that funding for this year because we didn't bring it forward in the budget. So,
thank you.
But it'll be there next year.
Scott?
I haven't got to say anything yet. That's okay. Scott,
Sorry about that. What options have we looked at all options? What were they? And how real are these estimates? And could this go over budget?
Well, the first step is to bring in an engineering review. We can't do that until you pass this item. So the sketch that Chief Russell's speaking of doesn't exist yet because we have to pay somebody to make it. The preliminary estimates, when we went through with the people on our staff that were able to help us make this estimate, the expensive part is we have to replace the base section is the interior part. We have to replace the entire roof. We have to bring the entire building's electrical up to code. That's going to be a big one. And there's also ADA accessibility standards that we have to address because of the repairs in this time frame. So those are the big hurdles. It's not a matter of, well, our second blue tarp blew off last month. So we've been patching, we've been nickel and diming it, and this is the time we have to regrade the foundation to bring it up so the drainage is appropriate. As Chief Brazier said, we need to plan for the future of the apparatus and the quarters. There are a number of options. This is what we've been advised by our housing folks, not housing, the building people who came. My expertise isn't in construction. But the first step is to sit with the engineers and talk to them about those options. These estimates were brought with the help of the experts we have on staff, but they're not exacting at all. The first step is to bring the engineers in and get that narrowed down. Then the next step, I believe, is to go out for an ITN or RFP or ITB or whichever one of those options is appropriate to talk to general contractors about those options and pricing.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks. I'm going to pass the mic to Commissioner Stewart in a second. What I'm concerned about, well, you made a statement that we can't do anything until you pass this item to build this building or do this renovation. I don't think that's really accurate. We can say we want to look at the various options and their prices and have an engineer look at whatever it takes to do that. And then we can decide which of those options to go forward with. So, right now I'm feeling I don't have enough information to really make a decision on this evening. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Stewart if he's been more involved with this than I have been.
I think the intent, let me back up a little bit. We had our first committee meeting, and quite honestly, it was very contentious, and I hope it gets better as time goes on. You know, my goal is, and I think the board asked me to do this, was to try to forge where we have one fire department, we don't have paid and volunteers, we want a fire department, period. Hell or high water, I'm going to try to do that. And I'm not
not sure I'm ever going to get my head above water the way we're headed now. But what we did here, and we agreed in that meeting, and now all of a sudden people coming up saying, well, I changed my mind. But let me tell you what we did. The conversation there was, we got this big expensive fire truck setting out. And the conversation was, you have your fire people down in our training facility. Well, that angers me. That angers me because that's our fire department. It's not anybody else's fire. That's Wakulla County's fire department. That's not the volunteers. It's not the paid. It's our fire department, first of all. So a truck sitting out in the weather now deteriorating. We can argue all day long, all night long, whether or not we need to do this. All I simply was trying to do was to bring an emergent, what I thought was emergent, and that committee that night thought it was emergent, but apparently it's not anymore. Let the fire truck sit out in the weather and not fix a building. Those are people who are paying. I mean, that's their livelihood. People, they sleep in that building. Snakes in the bed with them. Ants in the bed with them. Termites eating the building up. The roof leaking like a sieve. I don't care if we fix that building or not, quite honestly. But I want to get them something that they can live in. That's suitable to what we as a, I mean, that's, you talked about policy making, then let's make a policy. I don't care if we do it like this tonight. It doesn't matter to me. My point was, you know, I'm frustrated that the committee, we met, had a plan, walked out, and they changed their mind. I guess that bothers me the most. So I'm not sure we're ever going to make a lot of headway. So I'm in agreement with what I've heard here tonight is, you know, we need to get, maybe we need some more information. Do it, maybe, like Darcy said, if we need a whole new structure, go up there and bulldoze that thing down and we'll start over. Now let me go back and talk a little bit about the money, if you'll let me do this. To help. In a little more plain language, I think, and Tim, I'm not trying to say you didn't know what you're talking about, because you're the one who got me straight on this. In plain language is, there was some money in that you're talking about, Mr. Thomas, in a pot of money. It kind of got sealed up, if you will, the way we did the budget. It's sitting there, okay? The only way we can get to that money right now is to do a budget amendment, go through the whole budget process again, which is, and it's not hard to do, we've done it before. You have to advertise, you have to have a public hearing, and you re-adopt the budget with X amount of dollars moved out of that, you know, that old CIP money, which is now just holding there somewhere, $500,000 or so, and we move forward some money. And let's build a nice, I'd love to go up there and build them a nice fire station. That's really what I'd like to see, rather than us go up there and patching this lean-to, because that's what they're living in, is a lean-to right now. And do that, that's fine. But let's just make up our mind. You know, we've got a facility for them to live in right now. I don't want this to turn in one of those governmental, it takes us 6 months to get there from here. I want you, let's take some action tonight. Let's move ahead with a plan to get them a building they can live in and survive, and get that truck out of the weather, because I don't want to ruin a $350,000 truck. And there is some money that can be moved forward. The idea about borrowing the money, I thought was a good idea. I talked to the clerk about it. He said it was the best way to go. He said, in fact, he said, if I were doing it, he said, I would piggyback off our loan, which has the courthouse money in it. He said, we have a line of credit, piggyback off of that. It's no more interest. We simply hold the thing for a year. That way we don't have to go through this budget process. But I don't care. Either way is fine. If we want to go through the budget process and move it, that's fine. Let's just decide tonight how we want to go and tell these firefighters what they're going to get in the end, is my idea.
Yeah, before you do, Commissioner Brock, I just want to... What I'm concerned about, and I totally agree with you, and I think they need conditions that they're safe and healthy to live in. But I also want to know what I'm voting on. And this board in the past has voted on things in the past that, when we come to find out, we didn't quite know.
Let me interrupt you. What I suggest, Mr. Chairman, after hearing all this tonight, is let's look at all the, you know, let's get an RFP for a brand new station. Let's get an RFP to fix what's there. You know, there's 2 or 3 options available to us. Bulldoze the thing down and let's put up a new metal structure. But let's move quickly is all I'm asking. Mm-hmm. That's all the committee was looking to really ask, is that let's get it off the dime and get them out of the station there and now and get that truck out of the weather.
Commissioner Brock.
Tim, the $83,000, is that unallocated? 83,000 MSBU dollars?
No, that's allocated, that's available.
For use. That means, that's all I know. It's not, it's available for use as needs come throughout the year.
Right, it's undesignated.
Undesignated, I'm
Yes.
sorry, thank you. And I know that we have it there for when we need to buy new things like hoses and things.
Well, that's, 83 is our repair fund. That's what repairs the apparatus and tires and brakes and
That's
all of
the
that.
report you need. That we need.
The 520 is another 75, which is the hose and the foam and the hats and
I
all that
apologize.
stuff. No, it's
Well, I was going to suggest that I don't anticipate, and you may have more insight on this because we've done things like this before, but we can approve the money to come up with the proposal, the RFP to do the new building or repair the building, and just move forward with that. I don't imagine that being a very expensive, I mean, it won't be cheap. I don't anticipate it being a hugely expensive burden to have an engineer develop the cost comparison and designs.
Our grant, our AFG building grant, which was submitted last year, was for a full bulldoze and start over, which to me is still the optimal solution. And I agree completely with Mr. Thomas and Chief Russell that we don't want to go spend $100,000 to patch and then have to go spend another $700 to demolish the money we put into it. Absolutely agree. And you can ask my staff, it absolutely kills me to go get a loan because we've worked so hard to get the fire department out of debt. The fire department was not debt-free when I started, by the way. That's very much not the case. But nonetheless, we are debt-free today. I don't want to go into debt. However, we need to do something. And even starting with the engineering is fine. But there's no doubt we work for y'all. Please give us the guidance and we'll go take care of it. But we need to do something.
One option, if I may, to get us off of here tonight, is we can spend a little bit of money, probably less than $10,000, to put something over that fire truck. We can go buy a metal shed or some kind of cover for it. Can we do that, Darcy? Or
that would go out to the training grounds, and we're estimating in six grandish range to put an awning and all of that stuff at the training grounds to house the engine.
Just get it out of the weather, and that because that's where the people are going to have to live right now, is where they are at the training facility, until we finally get. And I suggest then we go out and look for what's the best method. Bulldoze.
And that's what we need to know. We need to know what our options are and what those options cost.
That's fine. Let's
and we're going to need, with all due respect, money to do that. Right now, all I'm getting are just guesses from the building officials, and we're going to need to
that's what I was
get
proposing.
an engineering study to talk about raising the land, the drainage. We have all kinds of stuff to take care of, and
Is the cost
those are going to
associated?
cost dollars too.
I think what we're asking for in the agenda item was to get what you're talking about. I mean, it wasn't to approve anything. It was, I mean, look at options 1 and 2. Option 2 is authorize staff to get an updated site evaluation and a preliminary cost estimate from one of our contract engineers who can do this to repair Station 8. What I'm hearing from the board is maybe amending that to be to either repair Station 8 or to bulldoze it and replace it. So it's 2 estimates.
Yeah.
And then option 1, I think, was authorize us to just find out basically what a short-term loan would be. And we'd have to bring both of those things back.
Absolutely.
And adding to that was what I think Commissioner Stewart mentioned about, and also going ahead and giving us the direction to buy a shed.
Yeah.
Okay, can we incorporate that in one motion?
I'll make that motion.
And I think Ms. Olaf's check will cover both of those things.
Okay, so we have a motion, as we understand it, to have staff look into do a cost analysis of either repair or construction of new, and at the same time, we're directing staff to erect a
Cover the engine. Structure to cover the engine.
structure to cover
Not
the...
to exceed $10,000.
Yeah, not to exceed $10,000. Good. Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner.
Second.
Not the engineer.
Right.
Okay.
Second by Commissioner Brock. Any further board discussion? Hearing none. Call for the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I'll finish up. I need to say one more thing.
Opposed? None. So it passes unanimously. Commissioner Stewart.
I want to ask the commissioners y'all going to get lots of emails and calls, and rightfully so. Any citizen or any firefighter should be able to call y'all. I'm going to ask y'all, just please, I hope you can trust that this committee is going to try to work together. I don't want to make it sound like it's doomed before we start, because I don't think it is. I think we're going to get somewhere eventually. It's just going to take time, and let it, give us time to gain some traction. I'm asking y'all to refer the calls to me or to one of the committee members. I'm not saying don't. You certainly have the right all to go ask the question of any chief. But
Well, I appreciate you taking the lead in this.
But if we can keep it into this house, then hopefully we can start to have this one fire department. That's my goal, and that's the only way I can see it happening.
It's a good goal. We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Could I say one thing on the subject? Never mind. Okay, Scott, I know we've talked about on a county basis trying to identify what facilities need repairs and try to do preventive maintenance and so forth. I know that this fire station is in terrible shape, but I know there are others too that desperately need repairs. So do we have a prioritization list of what station is next?
We do not, but we can certainly aim toward that way with our group. That's a good suggestion.
And also to be looking for grant money to do some of
We
this.
didn't get any of our federal grants that we applied for last year. Maybe this year will be better.
Okay, we're going to take a brief 5-minute recess. If we can get settled down, we're about to resume the meeting, and we're going to take a break from general business right now and go into citizens to be heard. Thank you. Michelle Ola.
Cheryl Ola is tax collector. I'm sure you're enjoying all these little pieces of paper I'm handing you. But I'm going to give you another check. It seems minute. The check is only $3,620.06. But that's going to be a return of money I didn't use in my budget last year. But I also spent $2,237.71 doing repairs to your building, which were really not in my budget. And I hope all of you notice when it pours down rain from here on out, when you go out, you'll have a gutter over your building over here. A gutter is over my front door too, which I requested 3 years ago, so finally now I have a gutter. Also, I want Miss Arts to be proud of me. I'm trying to conserve. When I saw them throwing air conditioners out from the courthouse, I confiscated one of those. I had it moved and hooked up because the air conditioning unit for my front office was too small. On 62, it would manage to be maybe 80 in the front office. It was terrible. So for $855, my air conditioner fell and moved the unit from the courthouse that was being left and hooked it up, and now I have air in my front office. I thank you very, very much for that. So totally, I would be refunding about $5,857.77. You'll also note that we have a new sidewalk out front. I want to give Mr. Cleve a very big hand for that. People were coming with the new parking. It's wonderful. He has a Mr. Turner that worked, and he came and repaired the first sidewalk we had, which handicapped people could not get into. He really needs to be commended for the work he does. When he says he'll be there, and he does a wonderful job. So we have a new sidewalk. Also, his department was responsible for going over. I made a complaint one day about the lines for my driving test that were not visible. The very next morning, they had someone there repainting the lines. you know, this is county effort, and that's wonderful in my book, and I'm going to praise anybody that helps us do that. So I want him to know that. I also want to be sure and tell you that in the past, when we took over driver's license, we only had 2 people in the back. I've managed to train 4, and people are beginning to adjust a little better. They don't like all the new Real ID rules, but it's turning out to be quite valuable for us, and we've been approved to now give out driving records, so I think we're going to make more money. We probably brought in $45,000 this year. I only estimated about $30,000, so we've done a little bit better. Also, I've added a drop box to my front office, which I think will help the county, and I'll announce that when we send out our bills. But like I said, this is a small one, but almost made $6,000 back, and I'm proud of it. But I thank you all, and I really appreciate your support.
Ms. Anna, I have a question for you.
Yes.
We began this meeting at 5 p.m.
Yes, sir.
It's almost 7 now. You've handed us 2 checks. Will you stay another hour or 2?
I don't think so. I need to go home. I don't have any more money. I mean, I gave you $27,237. That was a pretty good night's work.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, the MSBU money, I was concerned about that. I went through our attorney and all, and I talked to the county attorney, but we decided that there shouldn't be a problem with it, and I just want to, you know, that was some funds that we'd held from way back when, so, and kept them separate, but that clears us out, so I'm not going to give you any more money tonight.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Porter and Ms. Lori Westbrook.
I'm Jim Porter with the Wakulla County Horse Association, and just want to talk a little bit more about the equestrian center. I see it's been tabled tonight, and I'm kind of disappointed to see that it didn't come in front of the board. All we're really asking is that you get bids and see how much it's going to cost to move that arena, and if it's feasible, and if it is, maybe do it. We got the money, the grant money's there, and if everything works out, do it. And if not, then let's go ahead and do something else. But it keeps getting tabled. I went a year ago and looked at that arena in Moultrie and been working for a year to try to get it up here. I came to the last meeting and kind of thought maybe it was going to come forward, but it's not. So hopefully it will come forward. You know, there's no reason not to just put it out for bid. The commissioners have agreed to the property over there. They agreed to go forward with it, to accept the grant money, to do everything. And now for 3 years, just kind of been in limbo, and we're about to run out of time, and that's why I'm concerned with running out of time, and concerned that we go ahead and do something. We're not asking that, you know, to say definitely do that arena there. Maybe that's not the answer, but an arena is the answer. You know, the $120,000, he's saying $120,000 is left, Mr. Barton. Do the arena, do something, but we're going to sit around. And, you know, by the time it gets time to do something, the money's going to be gone. And then we say, oh, we can get an extension. But what if they don't? That means that you may or may not. Or otherwise, you wouldn't need an extension. It would just go through. You just keep the money as long as you want it. But obviously you can't do that because they have a cutoff date. So it's going to run out in April, and I just hate to see the county just lose it, you know. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Laura.
My name's Lori Westbrook, 158 Woodridge Road. I've been involved with youth equestrian in Wakulla County for about 20 years, and also with adults. I did attend the meeting 3 or 4 years ago at the initiation of asking for this grant. Mr. Dale Bennett was still here, and I attended with him as representative for the 4-H. Still nothing's been done, and it is a good project. They do have grant money sitting there, and it would just seem that something needs to happen somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dana Peck?
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I'm here listening to a $350,000 fire engine sitting out in the elements, in the rain, in the sun, in the sand. I'm hearing about the tax collector scrounging for an air conditioner, and I'm recalling about a month ago when we voted on the budget, 4 of the constitutional officers were asked to hold the line on spending or cut their budgets, and it seems that they have held the line or they have cut. and have done some fairly creative scrounging. You can't say that about the 5th constitutional officer, the sheriff, who came here and threatened to lay off deputies unless you raise the property taxes on families and homes in this county. 2 of you refused to go along with that threat, Commissioner Kessler and Commissioner Arts. But 3 of you, without asking for any justification in great detail, without reviewing the budget, without knowing how money is spent, seemed like just smile and twiddle and give the sheriff exactly what he asked for. So what has happened with this raise that is going to cost the families of this county extra money? The sheriff, it seems, has had a party, and he has bought himself not 1, not 2, but 3 brand new big expensive trucks. 1 for himself, 1 for his 2 top aides, whatever you call them, the deputy chief, and then another person. These are people who are retired, getting retirement pay from the sheriff's office, and now are also collecting a salary from the sheriff and driving their brand new trucks. That just seems unconscionable to me. But even more unconscionable is the fact that the sheriff, then after you gave this raise on the backs of the families without pursuing any cuts he might make, has gone out to build a shed behind, because I guess he has so many things he has to have some storage. And if that isn't unconscionable enough, the sheriff has a 50-inch flat screen TV for his office. And the way I figure that, that's about equivalent to one family's property tax in this county. And I don't think I could find a family who would be happy to have purchased that 50-inch flat screen TV with their property taxes. And it doesn't stop there. If you go to the sheriff's parking lot, you see a lot of the employees with more signs in them. And they travel all around this county all day long. I think that's your opponent, Commissioner Kessler. And I'm wondering who's paying for the gas in those trucks that are driving all around this county with those more signs on them that are parked outside of the sheriff's office that belong to his employees. And now there's a big old more trailer. And I'm wondering whose trailer is that? Is that the county taxpayer's trailer? And I'm also wondering about public safety officers that the sheriff crowed about being a great big money saver. But who's going to pay the liability on those cars and the liability on those public safety officers that are cruising around? Thoreau said, "Oh, for a man with a backbone through which you cannot pass your hand." I think it is time for at least 3 of you to get that backbone and stop this spending.
Thank you. Mr. McClure?
I've known I couldn't breathe. I didn't know I couldn't hear. I would like to go and speak about something pretty bad that's going around, a last-minute campaign tactic. It's called the push poll. And believe it or not, when you get a question under one of these polls, it's not designed to obtain anybody's opinion, but rather to influence a person's vote. I quote. In a push poll, large numbers of respondents are contacted, and little or no effort is made to collect and analyze response data. Instead, the push poll is a form of telemarketing-based propaganda and rumor-mongering masquerading as a poll. Push polls rely on innuendo and false information. Last campaign, a pretty malicious postcard was sent around because the citizens have wised up around here, I guess. This time it's push polling. No one is speaking up about this important community issue. The newspaper's treating it almost as a joke, saying the questions are inartful. And inartful means awkwardly expressed, but not necessarily untrue, ill-phrased, inexpedient, or clumsy. I wish someone over there would write seriously about this. The supervisor of elections isn't saying anything. Even the sheriff, with his use of emergency email capability, isn't saying anything, although they seem okay with using it for their budget requests. And you all are not using your media capabilities to inform citizens about this. So I thought I'd speak tonight. Citizens should be warned and on and looking for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Roberts. Renee Calhoun.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Commissioners, Renee Calhoun, 211 Bettywood Circle. I'm concerned about the fact that not only has the Housing Department failed to comply with federal regulations, it has also failed to follow Florida statutes and our own resolutions. In July 2008, Mr. Pingree and Mr. Nelson presented an agenda item to the board asking for the appointment of members to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee as required under Florida Statute 402.9076. The resolution was passed and it was signed on July 21st, 2008. The resolution states the meetings will be held monthly for the first year and quarterly thereafter. The meetings are to be public and sunshine laws apply. Well, Commissioners, Jessica, Laura, and I have searched and we can't find much of anything at all. We can't find the minutes of the meetings. We can't find the dates of the meetings. We can't find who the chairman was. We can't even find a newspaper ad. When Mr. Nelson was asked about the committee, he stated that the committee is not active. Well, Commissioners, we can't find out why a mandated committee is not active either. How many other committees that are supposed to review established policies, procedures, and ordinances are also not active? I suggest that the board set up a Citizens Advisory Committee that will conduct a performance audit that does an internal control review for the entire administration. I have no doubt many qualified individuals live in Wakulla County and would serve on such a committee. The entire administration of Wakulla County needs to start following the rules and clean up its act, Commissioners, and only you can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. W.D. Lansford.
Thank you, Commissioners. Recently, there was a letter to the editor in a local paper complimenting Mr. Pingree on bringing Wakulla County into the 21st century. Well, I thought it would be nice to take a look to see what it cost us and what were the results thereof. So we went back to 2005 and picked up the budget and got what I could out of it and some other information, and what it came out to be was something like about $31 million. Well, there were around, as best I could tell, about 100 employees, county employees. Okay, now we have 390 county employees according to the recent budget. And over the past 4 years, subtracting the $31 million from each annual budget and adding all of those up, came to something like $71 million to the state and Wakulla County. Okay, what's this got us? Well, we've got increased taxes and assessments. We've got increased bureaucracy. We've got increased ordinances that hinder the citizens in the work that they do. And we've got an administration that has insulted the citizens of Panacea and Wakulla County. If you remember, you said that the volunteers down there at Panacea did not have the quality nor the quantity that you anticipated. We've got an administration that has had questionable real estate transactions, questionable awarding of no-bid contracts, questionable hiring and firing practices, questioning accumulation of power, questioning oversight of housing and other departments, questioning purchasing of awards, questioning unauthorized ordinances. And we have a BoCC that refuses to ask the hard questions and votes 4-1 when answers are tried to be obtained. Okay, my grandma used to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. With a virtual fog bank of smoke arising from over there on the throne, I would like to know when we're going to start investigating for the fire. Well, the administration bosses, I see it, and I'm almost finished. The boss, Mr. Pingree, are you folks there? And you commissioners, sooner or later, your November will fall around, and there are more and more citizens out here that are becoming aware that you are not representing us. Commissioners, do your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, do we have a way of setting like a half-minute? It looked like it went from green right to red. I may have missed it. Is there a warning light for the citizens when they're speaking? Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, I appreciate fully citizens to be heard, and it's wonderful. It's always very enlightening.
This portion of the meeting where...
Well, I will clarify, I'm sorry. When there are defamatory lies being said...
You will have an opportunity
we sit on the gavel, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just for the record, I'm tiring of the defamatory comments. Thank you very much.
Mr. Steve first.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Fultz, 35 Monocoop Circle. I prepared a quick PowerPoint. This is entitled, Who Has Oversight Responsibility for the Administration? The following is the administration telling commissioners their purchasing exemptions are all on the up and up. This is a memorandum solely from Mr. Barden, July 29th, and he claims an exemption for the questioned invoices that came up previously. The exemption from competitive bidding says supplies or equipment where compatibility of equipment, standardization of products and services, accessories, or replacement parts permits only one reasonable source. He goes on to try to justify, saying, however, I seek to clarify and clearly and unequivocally no violations of the county purchasing policy have occurred. This went to all the county commissioners. So what I understand is that Inspired Technologies is the only reasonable source of supply for computers? Seriously, can you believe that? Also, more importantly, this exemption applies only to competitive bidding procedures, and therefore it does not provide exemption to the competitive verbal quotes or competitive written quotes based on price as required by Wakulla County Purchasing Ordinance Section 2.256. There is a clear distinction between a bid and a quotation as defined in the same code Section 2.251. He goes on to additionally say, in an email from Mr. Barden to One Arts, additionally, my memo also references the fact that included in the price of computer purchased through Inspired are the costs of specification and installation. There have been many instances in the past, where a division has purchased a cheaper computer that does not meet our current system specifications, as well as lack qualified individuals to install. These situations require a service call to Inspired for the installation at an additional cost to the county. So I did a public record request asking for, please provide the many instances as referenced, and also please provide any additional costs to the county as referenced. The response from public records was, Steve, per your records request below, we have no instances or records on file at this time. Mr. Barden happens to oversee purchasing. I respectfully request, for the record, the board seek an official opinion from the county attorney on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes section citizens to be heard. And we're back to general business.
Mr. Chairman, the next item up is a request for board considerations of fee waivers for a comprehensive plan map amendment or amendments. Back in December of '05, there were two properties along Tiger Hammock Road that received land division approvals through county planning in the form of a subdivision determination letter. An SDL is an administrative function which can be approved by the planning director. In this particular instance, there were two adjoining parcels that contained about between 12 and 13 acres each. And through this SDL process, they were allowed to be each divided into two. So now we have two parcels made into four parcels that are about between 6 and 7 acres each. Back in '05 and existing today, at the time of this division and today, the future land use under your comp plan is agriculture. So at the time this was done and today, this size of a parcel with this amount of density was not allowed under your comp plan. So we have parcels right now that cannot be built on because they're in violation of the comp plan, and the county is prevented from issuing development approvals that would violate your comp plan. After these SDLs were approved, the property owners believed that they had obtained all appropriate approvals from Wakulla County for the divisions. They recorded their divisions in the public records on the tax roll. Right now, there are four parcels. One of those parcels has also since been sold to a third party who is interested in building. In order to try to remedy this situation, we've advised the property owners that they need to apply for a comp plan amendment to change the designation from agriculture to probably rural one is what we're looking at here. In order to assist in this process, we are requesting that the board consider waiving the fees that would normally be associated with a comp plan map amendment. I'd like to note that in the past, when you've had, at least once in 2005, you had an SDL, similar situation, except here it dealt with platted lots that were then administratively redivided through an SDL, which violates state statute. That can't be done. And in that instance, you did waive the fees for them to come back and do a replat. And we're just requesting that you consider this tonight. And I would like to note that I know the property owner and the property owner's representative, Mr. Bruce Weiner, are here in the event you have any additional questions.
Thank you. I'd like to take a motion from the board.
Consider the comprehensive plan map amendment fee waiver and vote to waive all county fees for discussion.
Second for discussion. Motion by Commissioner Stewart and second for discussion by Commissioner Brock for item 13. Waiver of fee waiver for a comprehensive plan amendment.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to get some clarification from our attorney. I heard you say we've done something similar to this back in '05. What's your opinion? Should we do this? Are we going to set up dangerous precedents? That's my question.
Well, there are probably other SDLs out there that may need to have follow-up action. The amount of those we don't know without digging through all the records and figuring it out. I think there already is precedent out there. The property owners were under the impression that they were set and ready to go. So this has sort of come out of the blue for them. It's a significant amount of money if you weren't planning on having to spend that. And so we agreed to bring this forward sort of in the spirit of cooperating with the property owners going forward to try and remedy this situation. It's not a situation that staff or the property owners relish, but we're trying to come to a mutually agreeable solution so that we can get everything done and get it done in a legal manner, which is the issue at the moment. I would note that, they do have an SDL, and while I don't think there's a major risk, there is a risk that, we could get into a adversarial situation here, and you could be facing litigation with these property owners, perhaps over a vested rights determination, or an estoppel argument.
That scares me.
Are we also discussing waiving their impact fees?
No.
Okay, because those were listed on here also.
What's the total of the fees we're talking about?
Impact fees?
Well, it says additional reviews of transportation and stormwater impacts. I guess those are not impact fees.
No, those are review fees.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be a transportation concurrency review fee here, is there?
It would be a minimal review fee, but after further consideration, the stormwater review would not apply to the comprehensive plan, so I'd like to withdraw that information. There would be no stormwater review that occurs at a further point in development, such as subdivision plats or site plans. It does not occur at the comp plan stage.
So we're not asking for that to be waived tonight. We're really just talking about the comp plan and I guess the transportation concurrency, but these are single-family houses. They're way under the de minimis threshold.
And we're talking about four lots here.
Yes, 4 lots.
Did all the other lots around there have to pay the fees?
Well, all other lots around there, they would if they came forward for a comp plan amendment. This is a sort of a unique situation, though. We've got county allowing them on paper to subdivide some lots that does not comply with the comp plan, so it is a somewhat unique situation.
I think that as troublesome as it is, there are compelling reasons to do this.
But I agree, Mr. Chairman, but at the same time, she warned us that we open ourselves up for litigation by who?
No, I was saying that, if we dig our heels in, I mean, right now the property owners are working with us to remedy this situation. However, there has been discussions about vested rights determinations and things like that, where they would try and rely on that 2005 SDL and say they have a right to develop without the comp plan amendment, and I would like to avoid that situation if possible.
Yeah. Okay, I do have one more quick comment before we move off with this. So this will come back to us for a comprehensive plan hearing, and it's already divided, so we have to now change the zoning. Is what's going to happen?
You're changing the map. You're changing it from ag to rural 1, I believe, is going to be the appropriate. And all those issues will come back when you actually consider the amendments. Right now, we're just looking at the fee waiver.
Yeah.
Mr. Wells?
I hate this situation. And I understand that the people who own the property were not at fault. But I hate that we're in this situation. This is a backdoor approach to changing our comp plan. And we know there are others out there like this. I don't know. Nobody knows exactly how many. I've tried to talk with our attorney about what we can do to try and fix all of these mistakes, and there doesn't seem to be much that we can do. But I do want to just comment for everybody who's been attacking this administration and all the problems that have happened these past few years. If you look at all the mistakes that occurred under previous administrations, we see mistakes all the time that should have never happened. This is one of them, but we see a lot of others. So, I understand that there are mistakes that have been made in this administration, but I guarantee you there were a lot of mistakes that were being made before, and I think
especially on the point of view of our planning department, I think we are doing a much more professional job and following the laws, and I'm very proud of our planning department. But I just hate that we're having to, it almost presumes that we're going to approve the comp plan amendment without having even really considered it on its merits. It's a done deal.
Well,
basically.
And I guess I'm reflecting on this that we're talking about, and I don't know if our county chair would be comfortable commenting on this. If Amendment 4 passes, would this be a kind of comprehensive plan that would actually show up on the ballot in the future? Like once we approve it or don't approve it, it would then have to be voted on by the people.
I think that if the property owners file their application prior to the general election, that we would argue that this would be one that was already in process. But if it did come up afterwards and Amendment 4 passed, yes, every comp plan map amendment would go, even text amendments, frankly, under the way that ballot's written, would go ultimately to the voters.
Okay. I'm just mentioning that as people, because again, as I mentioned, early voting's taking place right now, so make sure you educate yourself on all the different amendments and people you're voting for as you move forward.
Okay. I think we have the information we need. Mr. Bruce Wiener, did you want to speak to this? Okay. Can we call for the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. It passes 4-1. Commissioner agenda items. I'll try to be as brief as possible. This first one I have listed as tax bill limitation. Basically what I'm asking the board to consider is to direct staff to look into an analysis to bring back to the Board of County Commissioners as relates to the billing situation of our tax bills. And what I'm getting to with this, even though it's not correctly spelled out in the option wording, is that there are instances, or maybe instances, where sending out a bill will cost us $10 to process and do whatever it takes, and we're collecting $5. Those type of situations, according to state statute, we can eliminate from our billing process and procedures, and actually we can go up to something like $30. But all I'm asking at this point is for analysis to be done and to bring it back to the board.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Brock and second by Commissioner Stewart. Are there any citizens to speak on this issue? Further commission discussion?
I don't think we have to rush this one item. I think this come back as a timely manner, but the other things we've been talking about tonight, there's a couple other priorities. This is at leisure in a few months.
I do have one thing. I hope the analysis will not just be based on the $30, but we'll look at smaller amounts, $5, $10.
Oh, no. There's no direction to look at $30. I'm not suggesting that it look at $30. I'm saying Florida statute sets a limit of $30 in allowing us to do that. That's what the analysis would address.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. So, do we call for this? Did we call for the motion? No, we'll call it now. We already did it. I lost track. Let's do it again.
We have a
vote on this?
motion and a second.
Okay, so call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Second of the items is the request of the board to direct county administrator to provide answers to a series of questions related to the county contracts with Inspired Technologies in order to clarify concerns related to the paperless agenda system, and also other concerns relating to our policies and procedures, purchase procedures specifically. So there was a series of questions that I had put out, and the administration had provided answers for them, which, my first question was the contract with Inspire Technologies amended prior to making this purchase or during the purchase process of the Purpose Agenda system? And the answer was no. They relied on the core contract of Inspire Technologies, which was approved by the board November 3rd, 2009. And that brings me to whether we are violating our own purchasing policy, our own law. And I don't think we've heard this brought up before, and this is not Inspire Technologies, this is county. We're not suggesting in any way that Inspire Technologies has done anything contrary to law. I'm suggesting we may be doing things contrary to law. And this series of answers from the administration, in other words, was there another purchase contract or contract let for this specific thing? And the answer, no. Okay? And I'm very concerned that purchases such as this are contrary to our purchasing policy, and really would like the board to consider asking our county attorney to look at our purchasing policy and give us a legal opinion. It would require the board direction. I'm just suggesting that to the board, because we've all got our answers now. They're spelled out here. It's public record. Okay? So we have these answers. I have my concerns. And I think we need to put this issue to rest one way or the other. Are we in violation? We don't want to be in violation in the future. What does the contract say? What does our purchasing policy say? Is this okay?
I'm fine with that. I've already asked the questions that were months ago when all this mess started, and I got the answer I needed. I felt confident that we were doing the right thing, but I'm fine with it. Her telling us in the public, it doesn't matter to me. I've asked the question. I don't know if any other commissioners have asked the question. I think they have.
I've asked the question also.
I'm happy to delve into this particular, if it's the paperless agenda system, happy to look at it in more detail. I mean, on first blush, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, 4 proposals or quotes were brought back to the board, and the board voted on which one they wanted to pursue. Is that...
Right, and I think that that becomes a little bit of a problem also in what we as a board think we're looking at and think we're voting upon. The paragraph that one of the citizens, I think it was Mr. Fultz, had in his presentation showing that unless there was a uniqueness, a patent, or sole productivity of a certain product, that barring that, it would have to go out through our purchasing policy bid or such. And so if I look at the other bids that were involved, which were more expensive than Inspired, okay, but as I understood them, they were unique contracts as opposed to a SharePoint, which is somebody else's product that Inspired would take and then configure to our use. And so anyone can buy SharePoint, and I'm not an expert in this, and I think that's what one of the problems of the board is, some of this technical stuff, we're reliant on staff. So I don't think we really looked at apples to apples. We may have been looking at apples to oranges, but all that aside, I'm concerned about that thing. I'm happy that the board would entertain you looking at the contract, county attorney, and giving us your opinion.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'd like to just note, even the very last exemption in your purchasing policy is for any other commodities or services as determined by the board. Mm-hmm. So that there is sort of a broad catch-all, and this board is always empowered in individual situations to waive your own purchasing policy. if you want me to report back to you in writing on this specific purchase, happy to, based on board direction.
Well, I would appreciate that. And also, I think that if we're going to waive our purchasing policy, then we have to, that's right, we have to state that and vote that way that we are waiving our purchasing policy. If not, we're assuming the purchasing policy is in effect.
Understood.
Do you anticipate this, if we had to move forward with this project, it costing beyond our normal services from you?
No. I mean, it will take time, but let me minimize that, but it's not going to be separately billed.
So that's one thing I'd like the board to consider. The other thing is, when we're talking about direction and how we're moving forward, I know the folks from the Equestrian Center were here tonight, and I think Mr. Porter said it was like a year ago or so he had looked at this Equestrian Center in Moultrie. And so what's being done, and why isn't something moving along? The board gave direction. The board gave policy. We gave policy here. Okay, install the system, and we still don't have it. Now, I know we're saying we have a problem now with the courthouse, with the wiring, but before the courthouse went under its renovation, we still did not have this system in place, and my understanding is we had paid for that system months ago, and that's of concern. But I would like to focus on the getting the attorney's opinion. I think the board can look at the time frame on the wireless. I know, Commissioner Stewart, you were pretty much an advocate for the paperless agenda system. I think we all had hoped that it would have been in place months ago. I'm not clear on why, if we did pay that bill, why we paid it without the functioning up and running, the system up and running. So,
Can I get a card?
you can fill out a card later if you can come up here. Sure, please.
Craig Goodson, Inspired Technologies. Some of the things that you're saying are responded to in some of your own memos. The delay of the system at this point is really not on Inspired Technologies, and I think there's merit behind that in the sense that the system is functional. It's in production, it's ready to go. But you don't just do a paperless agenda system just with the technology. There has to be some procedures, policies, and such put in place so that you can function and do the approval processes, submit, track the documents, and those are things that the technology is not going to identify for you. So the courthouse being under renovations aren't completely the reason this isn't in production anyway. So 95% of the paperless agenda system would occur prior to the meeting anyway. That would all be done during the submission of agenda items, you guys defining the policies and procedures for creating that document at your place before you even get here. So just having connectivity to the SharePoint system is really a minor or moot point. For all intents and purposes, you could produce the single PDF document out of the paperless agenda system and load it on everyone's laptop and share it right here without connectivity over to the main system. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that you're clear that Inspired Technologies is ready to jump as high as you want us to jump and go as fast as you want us to go. But at this point, we're waiting on direction to say what to do.
Okay, and so that gets me to another point, and thank you. I need more clarification though. What did we actually buy and pay for that $12,110?
You bought a server to host the software. You bought SharePoint, which is a Microsoft product. You're correct. It's not Inspired Technologies that can create SharePoint. But you bought a SharePoint services server, which is the ability to allow collaboration amongst as many users as you really want to add to the system. So in essence, where there's a tremendous amount of paper shuffling back and forth between or prior to the actual final agenda being done, this system gives you electronic access either from your house, from the office, from wherever you have access to the network, to do submittals, track changes, do just a myriad of things that we've shown and demonstrated to staff. So the basis for the system is ready to roll. I mean, it's just a matter of how do we want to whiteboard it out and train on it.
So you've trained staff, then what does this mean, whiteboard it out?
Well, I mean, I think there's some type of flowing mechanism for you guys to say, here's how we want to utilize this going forward. I don't know what goes into making an agenda from start to finish, but I can do the technology that says let's get it from A to Z in production.
So you're saying you're waiting for the county to give you how to make up an agenda, or what are you waiting on?
In your own memos from your staff, which I had the luxury of reading before I got here, I mean, they give a timeline on how they're going to do this going forward. I mean, there's some internal decisions and procedures to be determined by administrative staff.
Have you set up paperless agenda systems before?
I've not done a paperless agenda system, but we've done many SharePoint systems.
I did in Leon. I mean, Jennifer's the Special Projects Director's item laid all this out. Now, you didn't attach it in your agenda item, Commissioner, but we did in our additional information packet. It was distributed after the last meeting, or when this came up. I rolled it out in Leon County, and there is a process, and I want to talk just a second about the process. When I first got here, let's just back up. The whole agenda was about, at least my first meeting, this thick. There was no background documentation. There certainly wasn't analysis. There wasn't anything. People got up and would just sort of say what they reckoned they needed, and board would vote on it, and with the exception of planning, where you'd get a little bit more information. So I can tell you, and your staff has done yeoman's work over the last 4 years, but just getting them to be able to do this Rome wasn't built in a day. So what you're now doing is you're taking where people can generate a Word document, format similar, and you're creating a software package that they have to write there and edit their agenda items in. Then you have to write in overwrite. So in other words, if Scott Joyner at the library was doing an agenda item, then you have to write in protocol for the system where Doug Jones, as the department head, could overwrite his draft, and then it would move up the line. You'd also build in an override feature for the county attorney to have review, and it's a very good system, but it doesn't roll out by itself. That's one. Two, there's usually glitches. I mean, you don't just have it bang and it goes, and we don't rely on your paper product anymore. That takes staff effort, and I think, again, Jennifer's memo talked about some of the shortcomings we had and our plans to address those. And finally, I don't think it's a moot point, Craig. It's the only thing I disagree with you on a little bit. As far as getting connectivity here, I mean, there was this, I think Jennifer said there was about a $1,600 fee, which
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not saying it's a moot point in the sense that it would be nice to, if we're going to have this, Cadillac paperless agenda system available, that we have connectivity to it. I think that's great. And that happened just out of chance that the courthouse, which is how the fiber is routed from this facility back to the county commission office or the annex, it just happened. So yeah, that needs to be brought back up so that we could potentially do some of the features that we would need live connectivity to that system to do. So it's not moot, but I'm just saying the input side of the system could be accessible today. I mean, from your laptop, you can access the system today as long as you have connectivity to the server that hosts it.
They could, but you got to train the trainer first before I'd have to train my entire staff.
Oh, no.
So that's where the rub is, commissioners.
Okay, so what maybe I didn't understand, maybe everybody else did understand. Okay, we're going to buy a paperless agenda system. It's going to be $1,210 or whatever, $12,110. I thought we were set to go. Okay, I thought that's what we were paying for. We were up and running, and that's part of the problem of what are we buying when we're saying we're buying something. And so I think I was led to believe I was buying this thing. It was going to be taught to our staff, and we were going to be running. When I had my medical practices and I wanted to have a software system come in and specialize something for the billing or whatever was going on in my office for all these different insurance companies, they came in, they sat with my staff, They understood the flow of what was going on in the office. We made up a template. They banged it out. We had a couple of trials on it. And, 2.5, 3 months, we were fully transitioned. I mean, that's what sort of I expected over here with this.
Fair enough. Let's go.
But the holdup right now is the courthouse. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. It's a piece of it. I mean, as far as having live connectivity from here, but the issue at this point, I would compare it to me giving you Office 2007. You love Outlook. You love using it. You love the functions that you can do with your email. I mean, I can only take you so far with it before it's on you to actually utilize it. And I think that's where we're at this point. I think Jennifer being out may be a little bit of a delay at this point since she headed it up, but I think we're close to being ready to define the procedures, actually get in there and train on using the system so we can roll it to all parties that need to utilize.
And this wiring, is there any way that, I know that people get plugged into with their wires and then people don't, and it's with some kind of thing magic in the air where they're able to open their computers and use it.
We just really don't have that ability. I mean, yeah, we can put wireless in the building, but the issue isn't getting connectivity from the devices that we would put on the podium. The laptops are going to sit here. They're going to plug in. They're going to have physical connectivity to this building, but the fiber that we use to get across the street is, for all intents and purposes, severed in the construction right now. We need to relocate it to a permanent location so that we can establish that connectivity again. To get wireless from here to your place where the servers are located is not really a good solution for us.
Yeah, so I don't pretend to even understand that. Commissioner Brock?
When this is all said and done, and we're done with everything, I would like to see us try and get wireless in the building also, so citizens can get on their laptops.
Here or over?
Or here, during meetings, if they want to connect to our agendas and all of this, and look on them online and follow. And we're going to move towards less paper. So, I don't mind us being connected in case there's, because we can't have the wireless going out on us.
Certainly.
Which sometimes happens, they're slow wireless. But if we could offer it to our citizens, we'll move forward with that step. I would like that.
Well, Miss Ola will have to help in some of that, because one of the things at this facility is, unless you want to pull in your own internet connection, there's no connectivity in this building for the BoCC. Right now, we've luckily had a tax collector that has access right beside us, so that will be something for the board to work out between the entities. But yes,
that's just something to think about for the future, because whatever we do, I don't want it to be public, so that we don't have all of our shared documents, like anything on I get confused when you get to the point where you can share things on computers.
Sure.
So that's another conversation, just something I'm mentioning to think about.
Thank you.
Okay, one last thing. As far as the policy and procedures on the purchasing stuff, I'd almost be willing to donate the money for a final answer to be derived at, and everyone give us a thumbs up, because honestly, from our standpoint, and we're pretty much all local folks, we look at you guys as much as the boss as anyone, and we just want to do a good job. We want to fulfill our contract. We want to feel like we're doing the best thing we can do for Wakulla County. And we would just like for someone to say, hey, Craig, follow these procedures, and this is how we're going to do it. And if that's 40 bids or 3 bids, it really doesn't matter to me. We just want to be within the box.
Right, and I understand that, and again, I'm requesting the board to ask the county attorney to look at our procedures.
But Inspire Technologies almost deserves its own agenda item on a week in, week out basis. So anything that would lessen that public impact is certainly something we'd like to do.
And let me the compliment as far as anytime I've ever had any issue with any IT thing at the office, I've been able to call y'all and have a very quick response, and people fix my computer issues almost instantly. So thank y'all very much for the work that y'all are doing for us.
And we appreciate that, and I think we've done that for everyone. So, again, that's all I'm saying. My plea is we just want to be good business, do good business with the county, and whatever rules you tell us to play by is exactly what we want to do. And we have no problem. I think all of my staff, all 28 of us, we try to respond in timely fashion. We try to go above and beyond. And if going above and beyond sometimes is going to get us in a gray area, we don't want to do that. We want you to tell us where to stop and where to play on a level playing field.
This is not your question, this is our question.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So, could we entertain a motion to our county attorney to give an opinion regarding our purchasing policy on this contract?
I move to direct the county attorney to review and answer the questions or concerns in this item.
Well, it really is, the only question I have regarding the contract is did we violate or not purchasing policy? Again, nothing to do with Inspired Technologies, our rules and our game.
So I move that we direct the county attorney to review whether or not we followed the purchasing policy with regard to the paperwork.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Art, second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion by the board?
I'm hoping that this moves forward putting this to rest.
Things will be a priority. Okay, we'll call for the motion.
We'll the last one.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Last of my items is a sort of an awkward item going forward, but it has been a priority of the board to continue to look for ways of having more public access to our waterways. And I know we're broke, but there may be an opportunity, and there may be an opportunity with creative financing and things that we can do as a government that would allow us to at least obtain one of these additional boat ramp situations. And right now we have a situation in the Spring Creek Marina on boat ramp and some additional properties about it for additional parking that if the board so chose to think that worthy of staff time to consider using resources to explore the various options open to secure this marina and boat ramp. That's what this item is about.
I move to direct the county administrator and staff to explore various options for securing this marina and boat ramp.
Motion by Commissioner Arts, second by Commissioner Stewart. Are there any citizens to speak on this issue? None. Board discussion?
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion. I know Jennifer Langston's been working on it for a couple months and been looking into at least a couple months, because that's when I last spoke to her about it. So I'm glad that we can help, even though she's on maternity leave, direct staff to continue working on it. Yeah.
Good. And I've been in contact with both the entities for the landowners that would be involved in this project. I think they're receptive to different creative things, and I think I appreciate the staff's support in that. Yes, Commissioner Watts.
Just so the public knows, this is a property that I guess is now owned by FDIC and would be available for a fairly low price, relatively speaking.
Negotiations have begun.
But it would be a wonderful waterfront park with boat ramps, one or maybe two, a marina, and would replace what was once going to be a private development there.
So I think it would be a nice public amenity to add to our many list of parks and other kinds of projects. I would like to, I think probably all of the commissioners were approached individually about this project, and it's good to bring it forward for consensus for the board. I do know that even I had brought in a technical writer, a grant writer, to look at writing a grant for this property at no charge to the county. So, and then I think, and I think Tim Barden is going to be coming back with an agenda item where we can encourage other potential grant writers to write grants, to find funding sources and write grants for projects such as this, and that they would then be able to help to administer the grants. But we also need a park board to help prioritize these projects for which should be first or second in line to go after what funding sources. So anyway, it's a good project.
Further board discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. That concludes Commissioner agenda items. Okay. We're on to County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one discussion item tonight regarding the rural area of critical economic concern. Back in July, staff in County Attorney's Office has been investigating and working on this. I have to stay away from that, apparently. For several months, back in July, a report was brought back to you, and you all had directed us to continue our efforts. What I'm here tonight is originally we were going to hold off and wait a little bit until Jennifer Langston came back from maternity leave. However, this is a process that is controlled by the governor's office, and since we're going to have a new governor in very short order, and since we've already educated the existing staff there, since we already have contacts in that governor's office now, I spoke with Mr. Pingree, and we agreed that it would probably be best to press on and conclude this process as soon as possible. A new governor is going to have different priorities and probably wouldn't be able to get back to this item for quite some time. So with that, I wanted to get sort of a feel from you all. Wakulla County right now is strategically and geographically located between two existing RACICs, the Northwest RACIC and the North Central RACIC. And when we go back to the governor's office asking them to sign an executive order putting us into one of those, we want to tell them which one we want to be in. I would recommend that this board consider asking to be joined in the North Central. The North Central RACIC includes Jefferson, Madison, Taylor, Hamilton, Suwanee, Lafayette, Dixie, Columbia, Levy, Baker, all the counties that way. The reason that we are recommending that you consider letting us ask for that designation is that, one, you're already in the Broadband Authority, which is all of those partners. Two, staff and my office have a very good working relationship already with Jeff Hendry, who is the staff for the North Central RACIC. So we're already a few steps ahead on contacts. We'd be comfortable with that one, and so I'm sort of just looking for a head nod from you all to go forward, conclude this process, push it through, and ask for designation in the North Central.
I think our working relationship with the North Florida Broadband Authority, which is also everyone in it except for us is part of the North Central RACIC, I think that's a good enough reason for us to work with them.
I'm fine.
Commissioner Watts?
I just have a question. Is one group more effective than the other, would you say, in terms of...
The fact that they got the broadband funding and the other one didn't, and they both tried, would encourage us to go with them.
Well, that's on one issue, but I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't know how you compare one RACIC group to another.
I'm I'm not going to disparage the Northwest group at all. They're a smaller group. I've not worked with them as much. I've worked a lot with Jeff Hendry on not just issues with that, but he's very active. He's very proactive for the county. Probably can't go wrong with either of them, frankly. I mean, the benefits of being in a RACIC are pretty obvious. I think we're just looking for which one we think would have the better working relationship and where we would already be able to hit the ground running. And for that, I think it's the North Central.
Okay. And so for people who know what we're talking about, can you again go over what RACIC stands for?
It's a rural area of critical economic concern. There's 3 existing RACICs right now in the state of Florida. You've got the Northwest, the North Central, and then you have one in the south where around Okeechobee and those kind of counties. Down in that geographic area. And this gives you a lot of opportunities as far as you forgive grant matches. There are some statutes you could take advantage of for additional funding opportunities that you can't if you're not in a RACIC. There's a whole host of, I mean, I actually have the agenda item if you want me to list them off. Let's see.
I think we're good. I just want people to know why we were talking about it. That's an opportunity for
higher grants, less matches is basically the bottom line.
Okay, good. And the recommendation for this group is that we already have established working relationships.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that you saw all our heads bobbing.
Very good. And that's all that I have tonight.
Very good. County Administrator? No comments?
Another beautiful day in Wakulla County. Thank you.
We're on to discussion items by commissioners.
I want to touch on 2 things. What do you have? Go ahead. I apologize. I want to once again remind everybody, every voting's going on. It's my plug. Yeah, I see people laughing and cringing. This is more for people at home who tune in and out of our meetings throughout the night. I want to remind everyone that you can go to the Supervisor Elections Office and vote. I also passed my flyer down, and Commissioner Kessler can talk about it if he would like. We are having on the other side, the barbecue, the actual front of the flyer. They're having I'll pass it on to you.
Oh, yes. You want to read that up?
Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners and ESG at Public Works Department is having a barbecue to celebrate the road paving projects of Gavin and Old Bethel Roads this Saturday, October 23rd from 11 to 1 p.m. at the corner of Spring Creek and Gavin Road. So if you're interested in celebrating a newly paved road in Wakulla County and or eating barbecue, I invite you to come out from 11 to 1 this Saturday, October 23rd, and celebrate. I won't be there. My lovely sister Eden is getting married at that same time. Wow. So I encourage you all to come out, and I'll be there.
Very good. Commissioner Stewart.
Just quickly, the equestrian center. I'd like to ask Mr. Pingree to task Mr. Gray to get to the bottom of what we give us some options. Not just going up and hauling maybe a rusty building down here. I want to know what kind of condition it's in. Is it worth hauling down here? How much is it going to cost to put up? What's it going to cost to make access over there in that 100 acres of woods? Give us something to work with. He's the guy that ought to be doing that, I think. So, but yes, give us something so we can tell these folks.
Understood.
I'll tag on to that. I don't know if I have anything more. I was going to have that equestrian item on the agenda, and I called in on the agenda and said the staff had it, and I don't know when it was pulled, but near the end of the week it was pulled. But my concern, and I agree, staff should be bringing forward whatever the administration has asked for. But again, I go to the feet of the administrator. This has been way too long to accept whatever this is going on. This is policy the board sets. It's supposed to happen. And I think that's where we need to almost end our thing. Once we say policy, we're supposed to enact it. Now, why that's not happening, I'm not fully clear on, and maybe when we get the final package from the administration, when it comes to us November 1st, we'll have the information we need. But I want to see what's been provided in the past, what's been asked for in the past, especially, and see, but I really want you to see where people have failed or not failed, and why hasn't it.
I will absolutely see where people have failed or not failed and hold them accountable on this issue. Yes, sir.
Again, it's a year or so looking at an arena. I'm sure it got more rusty since we started looking at it.
Well, there's more to this issue, and I don't want to spend a lot more time because I'm really hungry. But the point is that 100 acres we're taking up, because this was done before. In my tenure, I was off the board. When I was on the board before, and you was here, Mr. Kessler, we bought that property for a spray field, for an expansion of our existing spray field. Now we're going to eat it up with an equestrian center. I'm not sure that that's a good idea.
Well, wasn't that also looked at for our Heritage Village and other projects that were supposed to be possibly looked at there? So, and there may have been some concern about how appropriate it was for an additional spray field, considering the nature of the land there. Yes, Commissioner Arts.
I'm concerned about how long it's taken to move this grant project forward, and I know we've had some problems in the past with, and we need to make sure we're tracking this closely. But I think the item being tabled, it's my understanding that in addition to getting specific cost kind of information about moving the one facility down here, that it was also expanded to include maybe building something here. So it was expanding our range of options, basically the same thing we said we wanted to see for the firefighters, rather than just one option, give us 2 or 3. And so I think we really are only talking about a short delay to get that additional options fleshed out.
Can I comment?
Please.
The one thing about it is that's an arena that's existing. It was in 95, I believe, but you're talking about steel I-beams and a metal roof. I mean, you're not talking about a building. You're talking about steel I-beams and a metal roof is what you got. And in comparison to a new one, the pricing that we've gotten for a new, just the cover, is in the $300,000 range, just to cover. That does not include panels, which this has panels. The panels are the arena. You've got enough to have an arena that's 100 feet wide and 200 feet long, plus an area in the back that'll hold bulls, and they had a complete rodeo, bulls, everything there. So there's a lot to it. There's already an announcer's booth that's built into this system. And it's steel. I mean, it's steel I-beams. They tend to last a long time. I mean, it's not a 15-year product. They're going to last a long time. But the price of a new one, this grant money is not even going to come close to. Right. You're talking about $60,000 for the entire thing here versus $45,000 for panels.
This is the kind of information we want to see in an agenda item.
Trying to get brought up here, and it's not coming up, and Mr. Barnes said he rode by the facility. I mean, I don't think that's a good analysis of whether this facility is worth looking at, is riding by on the way to Atlanta. I just don't agree with that. I think it's a poor, decision just to ride by it. Go look at it. The building department looked at it.
Respectfully, I don't think you're being fair to Mr. Barden.
I think that's what he said last week.
We sent 2 staff up there to inspect it a lot closer than potentially you have or Mr. Gray.
Yes, sir, I've been there.
Up in the trusses, looking at the rust, checking the wind load, looking to see, it's not just a matter of taking a building that's been in a location for 15 years or however long it's been there apart, bringing it down here and putting it back up together.
I understand that.
What we've been reported is it's not that simple. What I don't want to do, and why this isn't here before you tonight, is I don't want to give you one option that's half-cocked. I want you to give multiple options on what you can spend the grant on. Sure. I understand, sir, that your organization really likes this arena, and that's going to be one of the options that will be presented.
Okay, right, as an option, but you don't have an arena for sale. A new option is not an option. The money's not there. That's definitely not an option. So you don't have another one. It's not like buying Cadillacs or something. You don't have one sitting around on the corner.
Just like for the board, just remember we got a community center over here. We can't even man yet.
But all I'm saying is to do something.
We agree.
After a year of the availability of the arena and
you know, all them questions, I mean, how, if it's going to take another year, I mean, the money's going to be gone, so.
Appreciate it. We understand that time frame. Thank you very much, Mr. Porter, for that. And then your comment, Commissioner Stewart, is, I think, really on target, is that this county needs to start prioritizing all of the things that it has on its burners and pay attention to which ones they want to have go forward, because we have a lot of burners right now going, and we don't know where to put the gas. Okay, with that, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Stewart. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.